documents from the World Bank Group shows it was all happening in the background. And the reports from 2017, 2018 and 2019 clarifies that. And then the Federal Reserve also eyes ISO 20022. And if you guys have heard about that, you will understand it, right? And this was actually updated back in August 2019. Still, Swift is not actually ready for ISO 20022 and they are having delays. If you guys have heard about the Agenda 21 before and the info from Bank of England directing towards the sustainable finance, it will actually be clear for you guys. Now, the statement from the World Bank itself has shown support for Ripple's services, and they have actually praised XRP Ledger for its efficiency. So what is coming ahead? Large banks are jumping in, and at the same time, Swift and Microsoft are actually joining hands with Ripple. Stay tuned, as there is much more coming in with a lot of information. If you are getting value out of the content, please do support the channel, hit the like button and the subscribe button, followed by the bell notification icon to get notified about the future videos. So this is the first document from the World Bank Group, and it's about distributed ledger technology and blockchain. Now, in the entire document, we have 14 times where Ripple, the company, is mentioned. Now, not all 14 are actually worth going through, but we will actually go through 6 of them, which is worth informational. Now, before actually reading through that, I would actually like to highlight this particular area, Dlt and Financial Inclusion. And when you come through that, you get something like this: digital identity system. There is something. And when you actually go into the Agenda 21, through that, when you come here, you get again ID 2020. And when you actually come down with that, you actually get Microsoft in that, which kind of gets and when you actually move ahead, we have a recent news showing that Ripple is again joining hands with Microsoft in some other aspects. So the ties are actually coming clearer. Anyway, this is the World Bank document in which we are actually concentrating on the aspects where World Bank has tested and approved or is working with Ripple, and they are promoting Ripple. So in this one, it is actually showing as an example for the cross-border payments and a remittance. Now, they have actually highlighted that this can lead to a better discovery of prices through foreign exchange transaction and expanding access to such services. Now, when you actually go through that, you actually get that they highlight that Ripple has its own cryptocurrency, which is named as XRP, which is actively traded on several cryptocurrency exchanges. And when you actually come through that, this is actually a first information for me. Previously, I haven't heard that US-China corridor is actually there. Whereas now, I came to understand that the Shanghai Bank recently announced that it is working on remittance product using Ripple for USA to China corridor. So that is actually coming up for soon, for sure, because this one is actually a 2017 document, and if that is showing that, and after that we had that US-China war going on, I mean the trade war going on, so there may be some kind of delays in that aspect. So now we'll move on to the next one here, and that is about the license itself. So in that one, Circle, Ripple and Coinbase is mentioned, and they have that license. Now, when we're actually coming into the next part of the document, where it is actually talking about leveraging the digital distributed ledger technology, you can actually see that primary concerns, they have a lot of primary concerns here, in which you have trade finance and loans, syndicated loans, tracking of provenance of agricultural products and other thing. And when you come down, you again get this identity, reliable and auditable maintenance of identity. Know your customer, collecting the customer's data, blah 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 blah. Anyway, then developing an alternative to the correspondent banking network model, and it is actually showing that, as we discussed above in the discussion about Ripple, so that is kind of a bit more clear. Then using a cryptocurrency for cross-border leg. You guys have to clearly see this: using a cryptocurrency for the cross-border leg, meaning it is really considering using the cryptocurrency to do the transaction itself. So it is not like no one knows this, and it is not like no one is going to use XRP. There are naysayers who state they use the software Ripple, but they are never going to use the digital asset of the cryptocurrency. So it is actually clear here. Now, those are the 6 areas in that document where it has mentioned. Now, in 2018, it is related to cryptocurrencies and blockchain from the World Bank Group. And when they are actually mentioning that, the Ripple comes here. Now, it has to be read clearly to understand in what context they are actually talking about Ripple there. When we come through this, it actually talks about Bitcoin, what the Bitcoin has. Mainly the lack of scalability of Bitcoin payment system is another limitation. They actually talk through that, and then they come here. Many attempts have been made through new cryptocurrencies, and now they already stated about Bitcoin, how the limitations of Bitcoins are limiting these transactions, and they then come through. So first they actually went through the proof of work, then they come through proof of stake. That means they are connecting Ethereum network, and then they are mentioning after that even more a radical departure from the proof of work, which is staying or going away from the Bitcoin system, is to grant the authority to maintain a blockchain to a limited number of pre-selected trusted participants. Ripple has taken this approach working with commercial banks. Now the next sentence has to be remembered at all times, because this is a document from World Bank and they are stating this. It reinstates trusted intermediaries into the blockchain network, meaning the commercial banks. So World Bank, IMF, BIS, who do they trust? It's not 100% trust, but they're actually working with them from years. So for them, this is more comfortable than going into the blockchain networks, other like proof of work networks or proof of stake networks. Now this is the next article, which is on 2019. And it's actually talking about the opportunities for private enterprises in the emerging markets. And yes, even though in this entire document they have around 6 mentions about Ripple, 4 of them seems to be worth. Now, in this particular one, they're actually looking at the distributed ledger taxonomy. And when they are actually looking at that, you can actually see where it is concentrated. It is a permission blockchain. That is to be highlighted, because previously when we were looking at different types of blockchain systems, there are permission and permissionless. In the recent document, that is in 2019, they're actually looking at permission blockchain and distributed ledger technology. An example, Ripple, a global financial transaction system. So means World Bank has already accepted that Ripple is a global financial transaction system in which you can actually do that. And at the bottom you can see unpermissioned public shared ledger, which shows Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies entirely, whereas Ripple is mentioned here like this. Now in the next area where Ripple is mentioned is in the bottom, where you actually see that it has connected it with the case of R3 and that consortium, and then it highlights which offers a blockchain-like technology and network for faster settlement of international system. Now, at that time, they were only mentioning about 75 banking clients globally, whereas in the last Swell event, we get to know that it is about 300. So when moving down to that document, we can see that sample use cases, and here they're actually talking about, now keep an eye out, they're talking about Ripple in the United States, and when you actually come down, you can see the Indian bank, which is ICICI's, and the blockchain is developing different blockchain remittance. So all over the world, they're actually concentrating on this, and financial giant Swift is participating in the Hyperledger Fabric project. Now that is worthwhile to keep in mind, because this document came in 2019 about that, and right now you can actually see that Ripple is joining hands with Swift and Microsoft. So Swift is already in there, and this document shows that Swift was in the Hyperledger Fabric, and we previously have discussed about the Hyperledger R3 and RippleNet, right? The connection between them and why they actually doing this. Financial institutions, fintech technology, and companies are actually, even governments are actually experimenting partnerships for proof of concept for better possibilities and limitations of blockchain. They are actually trying to understand this, and if they have to actually implement this, they need to understand the value of the DLT innovation and how they can actually adopt with respect to all the different ecosystems. Now, in the challenges side, what you have to actually understand is they know that there is a lot of different DLTs, a lot of different blockchains, but they're actually looking at the interoperability of different ledgers, those with existing legacy system and transition costs. That is the area where we have to actually highlight what is going to happen. And then they're actually highlighting network security and resilience of the system against potential cyber hacks. And keep this clear, they are highlighting a recent setback for Ethereum. So this is in a World Bank document, and they are talking about this setback for them. And they are also talking about the interoperability, which is kind of the key aspect of ILP, through which they'll use XRP. And when Brad Garlinghouse states about winner takes it all, majority are like, no, this is not going to happen. But in their conclusion, they're actually talking about this. The adoption process will not be smooth, and there will be winners and losers. Keep an eye on that, guys. World Bank is stating that in the adoption process, you will have winners and losers. Brad Garlinghouse previously stated that utility is the key for success, and this is true. So that is the reason which we actually states here in Scientific Investor channel. You can invest in whichever project you want to, but do your research, and before investing your money, take proper time to process the information and invest your money carefully. Now, this is the article which shows World Bank to use Ripple services for quick payment transfers. Now, this was last year, that is March 2019, and when you actually go through that, you can actually understand that payment tool they are talking about here is XRP, whereas as of now it is actually on-demand liquidity. So that's another milestone there at that time. So in the background, they were actually testing XRP during 2018, and they are highlighting that it was a successful test, meaning they are moving from the test phase to a production phase. So here they're actually talking about the title paying across borders. They really did the experimental run using XRP. That means they used the XRP as a technology, and now they're gonna go full. Remember, this test was during 2018, this article came during 2019, and this one is also in 2019. And this one is actually kind of trying to connect with this one, where it is showing that XRP ledger is being highlighted, that is XRP. And when we move on further in time, this came this year. Showing Ripple is actually showing majority of world's largest bank, that is around 38 largest bank, will be using Ripple worldwide. And this one which came recently, which is May 22nd, just a day before, is showing that Swift is working with Microsoft and Ripple for cross-border working group. So that is heavyweight champions. All of them are, Ripple is messaging and settlement team, Microsoft is everywhere, right? And Swift is a messaging platform. Now we all know that R3 is another messaging platform which uses different settlement assets, but primarily they are focusing on XRP. Now, based on this one, say for example the Faster Payments Council, they handle huge amount of money. Now I won't actually go into much depth because I saw a video previously from Kevin Cage who has actually highlighted the entire use cases. So to get more info about that Faster Payments System, Faster Payments Council, and Ripple, and the total amount they're processing, all that aspect, you can actually visit Kevin Cage's page. Now moving on to the next article, this is an old one again. This is to show the connection about the World Bank again. So in this one, it is actually showing Ripple's XRP expansion will be hard to stop now that World Bank, IMF, EU, everyone is involved. And as of now, we know that it's not only them, it's kind of all the majority of huge banks are in this, right? We just saw that the top 38 banks in the world are now using this, and a total of 300 financial institutions has been announced, and almost around 300 to 500 will be announced this swell event. If you remember this previously stated by Brad Garlinghouse, that majority of the banks, or at least top 20 banks, will be using and doing the custody service. Now CEO Brad Garlinghouse is even bolder, predicting that half of the top 20 banks in the world will be actively holding or trading digital assets in 2020. So it's just halfway to go. We can actually see that, and Stuart is actually showing just 224 days left until this. This tweet from James actually shows PolySign, the global standard for digital asset custody. So when you actually go into the article, it really shows that one side we are seeing everything's being aligned for payments use case, right? The transactions use case. And now on the other side, it is about custody. So when people actually have doubt regarding this, I mean, the price of XRP, they'll say, it's kind of wash trading. You're going to buy and sell to do the transaction in 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So the price is never going to go up. Think if institutions are actually coming out for custodying, why are they doing that? If no one is going to buy and hold XRP, why they need custody service? Now, yes, in the custody service, it won't only be XRP. It will be all the different assets, right? But at the same time, you can actually see, if you have previously read about PolySign, its connection with Ripple, the team, right? David Schwartz has previously highlighted this. So keep an eye on that too, because as we move forward, you'll get further information about the custody services. We already know about that. Buck is there, Fidelity is there, and all the different huge giants are there. And as we are moving forward, it's not only the payment sector or the asset investment side, the insurance and other side also coming in. This tweet from Stedas actually shows that PwC is running a node on XRP Ledger. Now, in the bottom, he actually clarifies that PwC is among the leading professional services networks in the world, delivering assurance, tax, and consulting services for business. So just that one firm is 42 billion in revenue. So if you actually look at that, they have office in 157 countries. So if they are going to use this and provide better services to their customers, of course, obviously, for sure, their competitors will also jump in. Otherwise, they will be missing massively. Now, this article further leading that towards ID 2020. Now, yes, different individuals will have different opinion about this, but I would just like to share how this is actually going. The World Bank estimates over 1 billion people lack any form of legally recognized identification. So that is like, this is being pushed towards for a positive thing to do or conduct the financial inclusion. So we actually saw in the World Bank report about that. And here they're actually talking about digital identity has RAID applications, and MasterCard previously joined the trust, blah, 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 blah. And when you come, you can actually see the consortium includes Accenture, IBM, R3, and a couple of others. So here, if you see Accenture, IBM, and R3, you can kind of note that there is some kind of connection with Ripple, the company there. And when you actually come to the bottom, you can see last month, Microsoft and Aetherium, ID 2020, they actually came into the ID 2020. So they're all doing this currently for the pandemic. They're trying to give it this one. Recently, I have even seen, iOS update is actually coming out for this. To solve or support or whatever they're stating, they will be tracking you where you're going and how you're doing things. Now, this all actually come kind of tackling, or not tackling, how can I coin that phrase? Okay, anyway, moving into Agenda 21. This was actually happened previously in, say, all the different countries, say 178 different governments actually came together for this, and they were actually talking about human impact on environment, and that was back in 1992, and they were actually pointing towards this. Now it has been resurfaced, the sustainable development. They're actually really talking about that. Do you guys actually think, when they are looking about sustainability and they already understand that there is a system like this which they can use with their trusted intermediaries, which is the banks, corresponding banking networks, right? But right now they are developing an alternative to the corresponding banking model, and they can use that system using the old same banks in the new system, right? So they are getting the advantages of the new technology, and they are not losing the benefit of their trusted partners. Now, why we are highlighting that? Because as the technology move forward, no one actually want to miss out. So when you actually read this, you'll get a bit more understanding about that. Consideration should also be given to the argument made in 2016 report by UK Government Office for Science that if governments waits for perfect solutions, it will miss the opportunity to shape and procure implementations of the technology that will provide maximum benefit to the public sector, and UK may lose opportunities for economic benefit as well. So when you actually go through that, they are actually talking about the application of DLT and how you can actually incorporate all those anti-money laundering, know your customer, meaning all the regulations are kept there. And they are actually talking here about R3's messaging system or Hyperledger. So remember, this was in 2017, and they were still talking about all these. And Ripple has already stated that they were always in ISO 20022. So while monitoring this, you can actually eye this Global Payment System Survey for collecting qualitative and quantitative information for usage of digital currency and DLT. So even during that time, they were actually considering about the usage of a digital currency using distributed ledger technology. If you are still having doubt, I don't know how else to give you more documents, but I'll try my best to come up with more and more documents which are from World Bank, IMF, Bank of International Settlements and all other reputed institutions to show that this is happening in the background. If you're getting value out of the content, please do support the channel, hit the like button and the subscribe button followed by the bell notification icon to get notified about the future videos.